Hi guys, here's a video going over your lesson for 4.3 linear and quadratic systems. I apologize if you can hear my dog eating in the background, but that's the crunching that you might hear. So today we're solving linear and quadratic systems. So the first thing we're looking at is a graph. So you have that parabola, that's your U-shaped graph, and we want to see how many times does each line intersect with the parabola and what are the solutions. So I'm going to start by graphing the first line, y equals -1. So what that means is I'm going to go to -1 on my y-axis, and I'm going to draw a line. Now if you look, you're asking yourself how many times does that intersect with the graph? Well, it intersects at 1 point and 2 points. So the number of intersections is 2. And what are the solutions? You're just telling me what those ordered pairs are. So it's 1, -1. And the second one is 5, -1. Your solutions are always the ordered pairs. And then for my second line, I'm looking at y equals -5. So I'm going to go to my y-axis, draw a line at -5, and I want to see how many times that intersects with the graph. Well, that only intersects in one spot, so their number of intersections is 1. And then what is the solution? It's the ordered pair, and the ordered pair at that point is 3, -5. So you're graphing all the lines and then seeing where they intersect. So now I'm going to go to x equals 4. So I'm going to go to 4 on my x-axis. I'm going to go ahead and erase these. That way you're not looking at too many lines on your graph. So I'm going to go to x equals 4. So I'm going to go to x on my y-axis. And then I want to see where that hits the graph. And it hits the graph in one spot. And then that spot is that ordered pair, which is at 4, -4. Alright, I'm going to erase that. Okay, so for D and E, you have both an x and a y, which means you're going to have a slope and a y-intercept. So I'm going to start by getting both of these into slope-intercept form. So for letter D, you're solving for y, so I'm going to add x to both sides. So that leaves me with y equals x plus 2. So to graph that, I'm going to start at 2. Oh, sorry, that's -2. So y equals x minus 2. There we go. So on the graph, I'm going to start at -2 because that's your y-intercept. I'm going to go up 1 over 1 since the number in front of x is 1. And I'm going to use that to draw my line. So up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. I'm going to keep going up 1 over 1 to see where it intersects my graph. So it intersects in 2 spots, right here and right there. So my first number of intersections is 2. So my first ordered pair is 1, -1. And my second ordered pair is 6, 4. Alright. And the last one, doing the same thing, I'm going to solve for y, so I'm going to subtract x from both sides. So I have y equals -x plus 4. So I'm going to start at 4. Oh, there's already an intersection. I'm going to go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, and then here's another intersection. So it intersects twice, and you just need to tell me what those two ordered pairs are. So the first one is at 0, 4, and the second one is at 5, -1. Alright, so that's how you do it when I give you the graph and some lines. You're graphing each of those lines and then you're checking to see how many times they intersect and what those intersections are. So that's solving graphically. The next thing we're looking at is solving algebraically. So there's 4 steps. So we're just going to walk through all 4 steps. Step number 1 is to make sure both equations have y isolated. So you're trying to have both of them be y equals and y equals, which we do have. Step number 2 is to do the substitution. So since y equals x squared plus 7x minus 24, I can substitute that into my second equation for y. So I'm just going to rewrite it. So I have x squared plus 7x minus 24 equals 10x plus 16. Now this is different from the other equations that we've had because this is a quadratic. So quadratic equations you have to get equal to 0. So leave your x squared positive, so I'm going to move everything on this side to the other side. So since my 10x is positive, I'm going to subtract 10x from both sides. And then 16 is positive, so I'm going to subtract 16 from both sides. So now that leaves me with x squared. 7x minus 10x is negative 3x. Negative 24 minus 16 is negative 40 equals 0. From here, which is step number 3, is to solve by factoring. So what you're trying to do to factor is you're trying to find two numbers that multiply to 40 and add to negative 3. So two numbers that multiply to negative 40 and add to negative 3. Those are 8 and 5, with your 8 being negative and your 5 being positive. So I have x minus 8 and x plus 5. Now to actually solve this equation, what you're going to do is you're going to take each factor, set it equal to 0, and solve for x. So I have x minus 8 equals 0, solve for x, so you get x equals 8. For this one I have x plus 5 equals 0, solve for x. So you get x equals negative 5. Now all of your answers should be ordered pairs, which means you should have an x and a y. We do have two values for x, so we just need to find those corresponding y's. So that leads us to step number 4, find the corresponding y values, use either equation. So you're going to take each of those x's and plug it in. I'm actually going to plug into this one because I think it's a little simpler. So I have y equals 10 times 8 plus 16. And then, let's see, 10 times 8 plus 16 is 96. So your first ordered pair is 8, 96. There's your first solution. For my second one, I'm going to plug in negative 5. So I have y equals 10 times negative 5 plus 16 is negative 34. So then your second solution, your x was negative 5, your y was negative 34. Alright, let's do another one. So letter B, they both have y equals, so I'm going to make the substitution. Since y equals x squared minus 4x plus 1, I'm going to substitute my y into the second equation for x squared minus 4x plus 1. I don't know if you can hear my kid talking in the background, but that was him if you just heard him. So now that I have them equal to each other, I'm going to go ahead and get it equal to 0. I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides, and I'm going to add 20 to both sides because I want to get it equal to 0. So I have x squared minus 10x plus 21 equals 0. And now I need to factor. So for factoring, I'm trying to find two numbers that multiply to 21 and add to negative 10. So you're thinking, what times what gives you 21? So 7 times 3 gives you 21. And if I make them both negative, then it's going to add to negative 10. Now I need to solve for x, so I'm going to take each of my factors, set it equal to 0, and solve for x. So I have x minus 7 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0. So my first one is x equals 7, and my second one is x equals 3. Now you're still not finished because you still need to solve for y. So I'm going to take that and plug it into here. So for my first one, I'm plugging in 7, so I have y equals 6 times 7 minus 20. So 6 times 7 minus 20 is 22. So my first ordered pair is 722. And then for my second one, I'm plugging in 3. So I have 6 times 3 minus 20. which is -2. So my second ordered pair is 3, -2. So these should have two answers, usually, as long as you end up with two x's when you factor. So make sure you find both an x and a y for your ordered pairs. Alright, I hope that video makes sense. If it doesn't, just watch it again and again until you are able to figure out your notes. Alright, hope you all have a great weekend.